Whenever I travel, there is this specific moment right as you step onto a Singapore Airlines flight. The lighting is soft, the music is subtle, and you are greeted by someone who looks like they haven't just spent hours in an airport. It feels effortless. But I've been reading through this deep dive on what it actually takes to be part of that crew, and let me tell you, effortless is probably the biggest illusion in the aviation industry.
That's the magic trick, isn't it? The swan effect. On the surface, it's all grace and smiles, but underneath the water, they are paddling furiously. We are talking about one of the most prestigious positions in aviation. It's not just a job. For many, it's a career-defining badge of honor. But the gap between the glamour we see as passengers and the rigorous reality of the role is, it's massive.
Massive is an understatement. I was looking at the entry requirements, and it feels less like a job application and more like an audition for a diplomatic corps. You need the standard age and educational qualifications, sure, but then there's this heavy emphasis on thriving in a multicultural environment. It makes you wonder, is this about serving coffee, or is it about international relations?
It's absolutely the latter. Think about the recruitment funnel. The first hurdle is the resume, right? But they aren't just looking for someone who can carry a tray. They want a polished history of customer service excellence and teamwork. If your resume has typos or looks messy, you're out. Because if you can't pay attention to the font on your CV, how can you be trusted to pay attention to a safety latch or a passenger's subtle medical distress?
That's a great point. Attention to detail is a proxy for safety. So let's say you get past the resume screening. You're in the room, the interview process sounds intense. It's not just tell me about yourself. They throw scenario-based questions at you.
Exactly. They want to see your operating system in real time. They might ask, a passenger is screaming because their meal choice isn't available and we are experiencing turbulence. What do you do? They don't just want the textbook answer. They are testing for cultural awareness, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. You have to demonstrate that you can maintain that famous composure while solving a complex problem. You have to know the airline's history, its values, and embody that Singapore girl or Singapore boy persona before you even put on the uniform.
It sounds like they are hiring for personality traits that are almost impossible to train if you don't already have the seeds of them. You mentioned cultural awareness earlier. The material emphasizes this heavily. Why is that specific skill so critical for SIA compared to, say, a domestic carrier?
Because the cabin of a Singapore Airlines flight is a microcosm of the world. You might have a passenger from Tokyo in 1A, a family from London in 1B, and a businessman from Mumbai across the aisle. Each of them has different unspoken expectations of respect, space, and service. If you treat everyone exactly the same, you're actually failing. The personalized service they are famous for requires reading the room, or rather reading the culture. It's about navigating those invisible social contracts so that every passenger feels at home, even if home means something different to each of them.
That's fascinating. It's hyper-empathy as a job requirement. But let's pivot to the physical reality of this. We've talked about the mind, but what about the body? The guide mentions managing stress and fatigue. I think people forget that these crews are essentially working in a pressurized metal tube at 35,000 feet, crossing time zones constantly.
It's a grueling lifestyle. The glamour fades pretty fast when you're on your third long-haul flight of the week. The guide is very clear. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Managing fatigue isn't just about feeling good. It's a safety issue. If you are exhausted, your reaction times slow down. So, they have to treat rest, hydration, and nutrition with the same discipline as their safety checks. It's not just getting some sleep, it's strategic recovery.
Strategic recovery. I like that. It implies that relaxing is part of the work.
It is. They have to set boundaries. When they are on the ground, they need to disconnect, engage in hobbies, and practice mindfulness. If they don't, burnout is inevitable. You have to be physically and mentally prepared because, and this is the part we often ignore, they are safety officers first and servers second.
Right, let's talk about that switch. 1 minute you're pouring vintage Dom Perignon and the next there's an emergency. The guide talks about leadership in crisis. That seems like a massive psychological shift to make in a split second.
It's the most critical part of their training. When the seatbelt sign goes on, or if there is a real emergency, the dynamic flips instantly. They stop being the gracious host and become the authority figure. They are trained to take charge. That soft voice needs to become a command that cuts through panic. They know the protocols so well that it's muscle memory. They know where every piece of equipment is. In a crisis, passengers look for a leader. If the crew panics, everyone panics. If the crew is calm and decisive, it saves lives.
It's almost like they have 2 different personalities stored in their brain, ready to activate depending on the situation. That leads me to the career aspect. Say you master this, you handle the service, the safety, the fatigue. Where do you go from there? Is there a path up, or do you just fly until you retire?
There is definitely a ladder, but you have to be proactive. It's not a passive progression. The guide mentions that SIA offers extensive professional development, leadership training, specialized workshops, but you have to seize those opportunities. You need to network within the company, finding mentors among the senior purser or management.
So it's corporate climbing, just at high altitude.
Precisely. And the skills are transferable. The emotional intelligence, the crisis management, the cross-cultural communication, those are leadership skills that apply anywhere. But within the airline, you can move into training roles, management, or higher tiers of cabin leadership where you are managing the entire team on an A380. That's like running a small hotel that moves at 600 miles per hour.
That's a brilliant way to put it. A flying hotel manager. It really contextualizes the teamwork aspect the text highlighted. You can't run a hotel alone.
No, and in the air, you are isolated. You can't call head office for help if a passenger has a heart attack or if the coffee machine breaks. You only have each other. That collaboration is the glue holding the operation together. If there is friction in the team, the passengers will feel it. It disrupts the atmosphere. So, being a good colleague is just as important as being good to the customers.
It seems like a career that demands a total lifestyle integration. You have to balance this high-performance work environment with a personal life that is constantly interrupted by travel. The guide mentioned work-life balance as a tip for success, but it sounds more like a survival mechanism.
It is survival. You have to fight for that balance. Spending quality time with loved ones when you are home becomes sacred. It requires a lot of maturity. We look at the uniform and think glamour, but the text really highlights resilience. You need physical stamina, mental toughness, and emotional flexibility. It's a job for the disciplined.
It really changes how I'll look at them on my next flight. I won't just see the smile, I'll see the training, the fatigue management, and the safety protocols running in the background of their minds.
And that's the goal of the training. The best technology in the world doesn't matter if the human element fails. SIA bets everything on their people. They know that in an era where planes are mostly the same, the only true differentiator is the human connection. That's why the standards are so high.
It brings up a philosophical question about the future of service. In a world that is becoming increasingly automated, where we check ourselves in and order food on screens, do you think this level of intense, human-centric service will become more valuable, or is it a dying art?
I think it becomes the ultimate luxury. Efficiency can be automated, but empathy cannot. A machine can deliver a meal, but it can't sense that you're nervous about flying and offer a reassuring word. It can't handle a medical emergency with compassion. As long as humans are the ones flying, we will crave that human reassurance. The Singapore Girl icon isn't just about tradition. It's a statement that human care is the premium product.
That is a powerful thought to wrap up on. Efficiency can be automated, but empathy cannot. It turns out the most important skill in the sky isn't flying the plane, it's understanding the people inside it.
Absolutely. It's a demanding, exhausting, beautiful profession. For those who can handle the heat and the altitude, it's a life like no other.
Well, to all the aspiring cabin crew out there, polish those resumes and practice your smile, but don't forget to sharpen your resilience. It's going to be a wild ride. Thanks for breaking this down with me.
My pleasure. Safe travels.